Welcome to the first 4 steps to staying cancer-free. I'm Dr. Megan Bernard, naturopathic doctor. In this class, I'm going to teach the most important steps of healing from cancer treatment and successfully reducing your risk of cancer ever coming back. I'll show you the path from the frustrations of navigating all the confusing anti-cancer information to a life where your day-to-day anti-cancer strategies feel clear and almost effortless. Rest assured, I'll be there to guide you at every step. Using a research-backed approach with a holistic spin, I will leave you with actionable changes today that will go above and beyond the conventional standard of eat well and exercise, but without the other end extreme of fasting, colon cleanses, and super restrictive diets. So you're in the right place if you are overwhelmed, if you're worried, if you're confused by all of the conflicting information out there on blocking cancer, and you want to have detailed and clear answers. If you already get that nutrition and lifestyle changes can lower cancer risk, and maybe you've made some changes already, but you just don't know if you're doing enough or if you're doing it right. You're also in the right place if you are looking for a strategy that is comprehensive, but also manageable for you and your family's lifestyle and will help you for decades to come. Something like a holistic and effective approach. But this is probably not the right training for you if you do not believe that food or lifestyle changes will impact how cancer grows or comes back or how you feel. I'm not here to kind of throw all of the research at you today about the statistics and how these things can make a difference when you eat these ways or exercise this way. That's not what this presentation is for. I'm going to show you already like what changes you need to make. I'm not going to go and try to prove it all to you. So I want you to make sure that you already believe that food and lifestyle changes will make a difference. You're only interested in taking supplements. This is also probably not the right training for you. I will talk about supplements, but I need you to want to dig into the underlying causes of cancer and the more important nutrition and lifestyle changes to reduce cancer risk. Or if you believe that extreme food restrictions and fad diets are the only way to stop cancer, this is not what we're going to go into today. I do not believe that extreme food restrictions and these trendy diets are what's necessary to block cancer, so that's not what I'm going to talk about today. And just one last thing before we begin, who am I? So I am Dr. Megan Bernard. As a cancer-focused and board-certified naturopathic doctor, I've developed my 6 pillars of cancer prevention to help women get clear and feel confident in their cancer blocking plan. Through a research-backed and holistic method, my team and I take an individualized and detailed approach to addressing cancer from all angles. My team and I have helped hundreds of women worldwide regain their confidence and keep cancer away. I'm also a dog mom. I love tea. I like coffee too, but tea is a little bit more my favorite thing. And I am Canadian. In the fine print here, I do have a bachelor's of health science with a major in diagnostic cytology, which is the detection and diagnosis of cancer at a cellular level. I have a master's in science with published research on cancer in the immune system. And I have a doctorate in naturopathy with additional training in naturopathic oncology support. Over here are also my 2 published research papers. Also important, cancer does run in my family, although we don't have any known genetic predisposition. My mom has had breast cancer. My mom's mom, so my grandmother, has had breast cancer. My mom's sister has had cervical cancer. My dad's dad my grandfather has had lung cancer. And I'm working really hard to set my body up good and strong so that cancer isn't my future as well. So I hope you all are ready to focus. Let's dive in to the first 4 steps to staying cancer free. I just want to say that I want you to really tune in today. I want you to put in your earphones. I want you to close out other tabs. I want you to look at this screen. I want you to really listen in. If you're here right now, I want you to really pay attention and get the most out of our time together. I know we're always prone to wanting to multitask, but if you could do anything you could possibly do to pay attention right now, let's do that. So step 1 of 4, become clear on your specific needs to heal and block cancer. So what does this even mean? What it really means is we want to begin to clearly identify your greatest health strengths and cancer vulnerabilities. Many people, many women approach life after cancer like this. So you hear that curcumin kills cancer cells, so you start taking curcumin, or that colon cleanses get rid of toxins, or that celery juice is a miracle food, that Kathy on the internet got rid of her cancer with a keto diet, that going vegetarian is a must to block cancer, that high doses of melatonin is a powerful antioxidant against cancer cells, or that walking greatly reduces cancer recurrence risk. So already, can you see a trend here where there's just a lot of generalized advice, kind of like any advice that's kind of made for someone else, and they're going to promise that it's going to work for you as well. Or there's a lot of conflicting information. You can see that I even talked about how keto helps someone get rid of their cancer. Also talked about how vegetarian diets, can you do both of those at the same time? Should you do both? It's very confusing, very overwhelming. We also see that a lot of things happen for these women when they follow this kind of advice like this, that their supplements begin to accumulate. They have melatonin, they have curcumin, then they get fish oil, then they get DIM, and then they run out of space in their cupboards. There's just more and more and more to kind of add to that system. And then you don't even have an idea of like the right dose or the length of time to take a lot of these supplements sometimes. So like that just kind of adds to the confusion we find. And what happens is they end up feeling like this. They feel lost. They feel overwhelmed. They feel frustrated and they feel annoyed. They feel sad. You honestly just want to do the right thing. You're willing to do a lot to keep cancer from coming back, but the information you've gathered just isn't clear. And you don't have any confirmation that it's right or the best steps for you to follow, right? Have you guys ever felt like this? What do you think would happen if instead you learned exactly what your body needs? Exactly what your body needs. What areas of your health are good and don't require you to change? And what's going on in your body to cause symptoms, cancer promoting inflammation, and fuel growth? What are the biggest areas to address for your best health and blocking cancer? What are potential underlying root causes or potential contributors to cancer? Because you really are unique. It's important to learn these things. Even if you had the same cancer diagnosis and treatment as someone else, your recovery and prevention plan is going to look different. Cancer is really more of a symptom as opposed to necessarily a disease. It's really an accumulation of many hits to your cells that eventually change them into mutated forms of their normal cells. So the pathway to those hits, for example, gut problems, hormone metabolism issues, stress, mold exposures, things like that, it's very different for everyone. And the end product of cancer may be the same, that everyone ends up with cancerous cells, cancerous changes, a cancer diagnosis, but the pathways that led to that diagnosis are going to be different from person to person. So, how do we get to know you better? We're going to spend a lot of time talking about this right now. Three big pathways, there's a few others, but three big pathways to learn how to get to know you better and what your body needs are things like blood work, epigenetic testing, and other functional testing as needed. So let's talk about blood work testing. Let's talk about what we would potentially test on blood work for you. First off, we want to look at nutrients. So nutrients are the things that help strengthen your immune system. We want to look at these things because if you don't have optimal nutrients, then your immune system is going to be weakened. And I hope that we all know that immune system is a very important part of finding and fighting cancer cells before they become a problem. So we want to top up your nutrients. We want to test where they're at. We want nutrients because they're going to give you energy. They're going to support your mitochondria, which are like your energy making processes and energy making powerhouses in your cells. So some specific nutrients that we're going to look at are vitamin D, B12, ferritin, zinc, even selenium, folate. There's a whole lot, but those are kind of like the main ones that we really want to test and get an idea of what they look like on your blood work. Other things would be inflammatory markers. So even if they're expected to be high because of treatment, we want to see where it is. We have a lot of women who come to us and they're like, my doctor said I shouldn't get this done because I'm still in radiation and it's expected that the inflammatory levels are going to be high. And yes, we totally get that. We know that it's going to be high, but what's important for inflammatory markers, things like HSCRP or ESR, is we want to see where they're at currently, and then we're going to apply changes in order to bring that inflammation down. And we want to retest and make sure that those inflammatory levels are going down over time as we incorporate these whole body strategies in order to help heal the inflammation. We also want to look at organ health. So these are pretty easy to get done typically in blood work: liver, kidney health, alkaline phosphatase, lactate dehydrogenase. These kind of things are kind of linked more to organ health. We want to look at cholesterol, including the particle size, ideally, which is actually a better predictor of heart disease and stroke than the traditional cholesterol panel when it comes to HDL, LDL, triglycerides, total cholesterol, the ratios. That's good stuff. We still want to have that, but it's also nice to know particle sizes as well. We also want to look at blood sugar. Blood sugar, we love talking about blood sugar, including your fasting insulin and fasting glucose, so that we can calculate something called the HOMA-IR, which is a predictor of insulin resistance, as well as testing for IGF-1, which is a growth factor that may encourage cancerous growth whenever it's in higher levels. And we want to look at a CBC, a complete blood cell panel. We're going to look at the neutrophil to lymphocyte ratio. We're not just going to look at how many lymphocytes do you have, how many neutrophils, how many total white blood cells. We want to break that down even further. And we're going to look at the ratio of lymphocytes to monocytes. We're going to look at the ratio of neutrophils and all the other factors as well, because that tells us a little bit more about what is the strength of the immune system, which cells are being deployed more often, which ones are depleted. Gives us a bigger insight into how strong the immune system is, above and beyond just looking at the total white blood cell count. We also want to look at your hormones, so everything from thyroid hormones to sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. We can even look at cortisol, look a little bit more in depth at those as well, just to see where they're at, how's your body producing them. And most of all, we really want optimal ranges, I have to say, and not just good enough ranges. We want to look at making sure that your body is functioning optimally, especially after cancer, when we need to work really hard at making sure that cancer doesn't come back again. What are some benefits of doing this blood work? Really, blood work really helps to confirm what's good and what doesn't need attention. And it really helps to conserve your energy and time when you already know, like, this is great, we don't need to worry about that. I can just keep doing what I'm doing for that. And instead of putting my questions and my attention and my time and my mental bandwidth into trying to figure out how to fix that, I already know it's good. Let's put all that into something that actually needs help. And that's where blood work actually highlights too what does need attention. It indicates the more impactful changes that need to be made, the goals that we need to be focusing on more heartily. It also helps to assess progress so we can retest where needed. And this provides assurance that we're on the right track, that you are making changes that are actually having impact on these markers that we have to go by. Some other benefits are to target optimal ranges, not just good enough for optimal health, not just not sick. Again, we want optimal health. We want you to function as optimally as possible because you're going to feel a lot better and you're going to do a lot better overall in the long run whenever we're helping all your organ systems, your whole body to function optimally, not just to be not sick. And it highlights underlying causes of symptoms or potential cancer contributors. So it just really gets to the crux of the matter. And overall, when we have this information from blood work, it helps you to stop skipping about from like thing to thing. You know more specifically about what nutrition changes you need to make, what supplement choices are best for you, and other lifestyle changes like exercise, sleep improvements, stress reduction, all those kind of things as well. Blood work actually is my absolute favorite. And I really do love combining with epigenetic testing, which I think we're going to talk about here too. Yeah, epigenetic testing. So epigenetic testing is basically just like a saliva test. And I just want you to know that it's completely different from genetic testing. Genetic testing would be things like BRCA1, BRCA2, PALB2, CHEK, P53, Lynch syndrome genes. These are things that are very commonly done conventionally. But I have to say, I've never seen someone come to us and say, "Oh yeah, I got my epigenetics tested as well through my medical doctor or my oncologist." Sometimes they get very confused thinking that they had it done because they hear the word genetics in the word epigenetics, but they are completely different things. When we're looking at your epigenetics, we're looking at a lot of different factors. And then in the end, we're trying to see more about how do you make antioxidants? How do you metabolize blood sugar? What is your risk for heart disease? How do you protect against estrogen? How do you break down estrogen? How do you absorb vitamin D? And a lot of other things as well. So there's a lot of different factors involved in epigenetic testing. And I have to say that both your genes and your epigenome, you are born with them. You can't necessarily change what you've got, but the environment, so the way that you like how good your sleep is, your stress, your supplements that you're taking, your nutrition, any drugs that you might be on, all of these environmental factors, things that you can influence, will influence your epigenetics. And then whenever you influence your epigenetics, they then go and influence your genetics and whether or not you remain in good health or get certain chronic diseases such as cancer. So there's a certain layer of control here that we can have over how our genes are expressed through the epigenetics, through what we change in our environment. And then by changing the ways that our genes are expressed, we can actually determine if we're more healthy or more prone to disease. So here is an example of how we can influence our epigenetics. So this is why if you have two identical twins, we've got Bill and Bob here. They are identical twins. They have identical genetics. They have even identical epigenetics as well. But we can have two identical twins, and even despite having the same genes, the same epigenomes, it is still possible for one twin to get cancer, whereas the other twin does not get cancer or other chronic diseases. We can see here that because perhaps Bill was consuming a lot of soft drinks, maybe eating out a lot of fast food. Lived in very cloudy weather. He wasn't very prone to being clean. Not saying that everyone needs to make their bed all the time. He was more prone to disease and having genetic switches occur that put him in the hospital with whatever medical condition he might have here. Whereas we've got Bob, who looks like he drinks orange juice. He lives in a sunnier environment. He makes his bed. He's even got fruits on the table behind him here. He exercises. He did not end up with a chronic disease. So despite these people being completely identical, they had different environments that they grew up in, and one ended up with a disease and one ended up being healthy. This just goes to show that we have a lot of control over our risk of disease. We can actually test someone's epigenome and see like, what kind of risk factors do they carry? Are they going to be more prone to getting diabetes or cancer or cholesterol issues or bone problems or whatever it might be? We can test this and we can actually apply certain nutrition, lifestyle changes, encourage certain supplementations or exercise programs in order to reduce the risk of them actually developing these diseases over time. Other things that would be important on top of blood work and epigenetic testing could be further functional testing, which we want to do kind of based on your symptoms, environmental exposures, comorbidities, health history, treatment history, cancer type, and more. Some tests that we often do would be something like a mold and mycotoxin test, stool testing for like gut health, heavy metal testing, and organic acid testing, which looks a little bit more into metabolism, mitochondrial health, and detoxification processes. We don't need to go and do all of these for everybody, but there are certain exposures and I don't know, just the way that your health is set up that might make us more likely to test certain areas in order to get a better understanding of your health and what needs to be addressed. Okay. Let's start putting all these together in an example. So here's a case study who is Stephanie. So Stephanie is a 44-year-old breast cancer survivor. She had radiation and surgery. Before coming to see us, she had already switched to organic foods. She cut down on her meat intake. She began juicing. She was taking vitamin D, I3C, fish oil, curcumin, B12, zinc, and mushrooms. Her symptoms were that she had a lack of stamina. Like she just didn't feel like she had the get up and go. She couldn't do a lot of things in a day. She's kind of low energy. She was very overwhelmed. She was trying to do this, that, and the other thing, and just didn't know where to focus her attention. And she really just wanted a straightforward plan to follow. So what we did is we did her blood work and we did her epigenetics testing. On her blood work, we saw that her vitamin D was low at 30 despite taking vitamin D. She had only really started it a couple months ago, but it was still really low at 30. And whenever it comes to the breast cancer research, especially for vitamin D, we want it to be at least 75. Her ferritin, which is a marker of iron, was also low at 16, although it wasn't flagged on blood work. That is, again, in more recent research, indication that it is low. And we want it to be actually 50 to 100 to help improve everything from her mood to her energy to other functions in the body as well. Her B12 was high because she was taking that B12 supplement, and it seemed like her body didn't really need it. Her levels were over 1600. And her IGF-1 was high as well, which is that growth factor that might potentially contribute to increasing the growth rate of cells. We don't want that. Her epigenetics test showed that she had issues with antioxidant protection. She created more harmful estrogens. She was sensitive to caffeine and dairy, and she had difficulty with methylation. Methylation is basically kind of like the process of healing cells. And just a heads up that although these cases are real, the names are real, these pictures are stock photos just because it is difficult to get people to give us pictures. I understand. I wouldn't want my picture all over the place like this either. And just honestly for privacy reasons. All right, so Stephanie's goals based on this data. So based on looking at her diagnosis, based on her own personal goals for her health, based on her blood work, her epigenetics, and her symptoms, here's what we came up with what we needed to tackle. So we need to look at the stamina and fatigue and potential contributors to the low energy, the poor stamina. Could have been that her low vitamin D, like her vitamin D was very low, and that can contribute to energy as well as cancer prevention. She also had a lot of mental exhaustion and overwhelm, taking care of the family, and then also trying to navigate post-cancer diagnosis, where you're pretty much kind of out there on your own, not knowing what to do, coming across this, that, and the other information. That was very exhausting for her. She also had low iron, which can contribute to low stamina, low fatigue. And she also had a little bit potentially blood sugar dysregulation based on the IGF-1. Her insulin, her glucose looked good, so I really don't think this was a contributing factor. Although, whenever we looked at her nutrition, we could see that she wasn't consuming consistently like blood sugar regulated meals. It was just something that would kind of give her energy crashes throughout her day. So, although she had really good blood sugar regulation on her blood work, it was more that she wasn't eating good, hearty meals for herself throughout the day, and then therefore would have blood sugar crashes throughout the day, and then that would have energy crashes throughout the day. We also needed to optimize her nutrients because we saw that her D was low, her iron was low, and her B12 was high. We needed to fix those levels. And she had IGF-1, which we think that it was due to the zinc because we retested after we took her off of the zinc and all levels went back to normal. We also always just focus on the balancing blood sugar. And like I said, we wanted to retest to make sure that whatever we were doing was making a difference. We also wanted to support her antioxidant pathways with foods and supplementation because we saw that those were reduced on her epigenetic testing. And we want to remove estrogen from the body, mostly through bowel movements. If we don't remove estrogen from the body, then it has a potential to recirculate and cause more issues. We want to protect against harmful estrogens that do get produced because it's natural and normal to produce some of the more harmful types of estrogen. It's just how our bodies work. We want to reduce that and make as few harmful estrogens as possible. We want to get rid of it as well through bowel movements. And we also want to protect against it hitting our cells. So give our body some antioxidants, again, through food and supplementation as necessary. We want to support proper estrogen formation, and things like cruciferous vegetables and certain supplements have shown to benefit that. Again, we saw that on our epigenetics testing. And we want to support methylation processes for cell healing and repair. When we can better repair and heal cells, we're going to have a lower risk of cancerous changes happening over time. She was honestly taking a lot of the wrong supplements because there are ones that she had come across in her research. So her zinc was increasing her IGF-1. Her B12 was too high. She didn't need the supplement. She wasn't taking a high enough vitamin D dose, and it also wasn't a good form for her. So we had to adjust all of those things, as well as we picked up on a few other things that could use our attention. Other things we chatted about with her outside of just looking at the blood work and epigenetics results were things like specific anti-breast cancer foods. We talked about exercise, stress reduction, and then certain supplements we had her to stop, like the mushrooms, fish oil, B12, zinc. They just weren't that important for her case. And we had her to change the curcumin she was on just to a better brand, better dose that's a little bit more absorbable and a higher dose. What we also wanted to do was retest everything. So we retested her D, her B12, her ferritin, her IGF-1 3 months after starting treatment. It could take about that time in order to see a little boost there. We wanted to see that they were climbing towards optimal ranges, which could take a little bit longer than 3 months. So we're probably going to test again 6 months and then 12 months down the road. But we wanted to make sure that we were at least on the right track and that things were improving. We suggested that she did blood work again every 6 or 12 months, depending on what works for her and her schedule and her ability to get the blood work done. And that was just because we want to get ahead of things before they become a problem. We want to make sure everything still looks good throughout every month, every year, before there's ever a big problem that's going to pop up. And with her next, after kind of optimizing all of these things, we considered gut testing and also optimizing calcium through diet and supplementation for her bone health and focusing on long-term sexual health due to body and hormone changes with her diagnosis and treatment. Over several visits and step by step, we didn't want to do everything at once with her. That's super overwhelming. We helped her to make these changes so that she could manage with her schedule, with her taste buds, with her family's taste buds. And also, we just adjusted her doses as needed whenever it came to retesting. So Stephanie said that it was so difficult going about this on her own in the beginning. I felt like I was making good changes, but was never sure if they were the best changes for me. I always felt like I was missing something, but I didn't know how to figure it out. Now I feel like we covered everything together and that I'm taking the best steps for me. I know what may have contributed to cancer starting, and I know what I need to do now, and I know what I need to do 1 year from now. What a huge feeling of relief, and I have so much more energy. So now Stephanie continues to follow up with us every now and then just to make sure she's staying on top of everything and continuing on with those next steps that we outlined there. And if there's any new research changes or life changes with her, we're there to help her to support those changes as they happen. So we also have Rebecca, who is a 46-year-old woman with colon cancer diagnosis. She went through surgery and chemotherapy. Before coming to see us, she was taking a probiotic, curcumin, fish oil. She also experienced a lot of gas, bloating, constipation throughout her entire life. She had recent fatigue, and she wanted to lose 15 pounds. And she was also experiencing, of course, a lot of overwhelm with trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I fix these things? What's really important to block cancer and to recover from treatment? So again, we did blood work. We saw that she had low vitamin D, she had low zinc, high hsCRP, which is that marker of inflammation. Her HbA1c, which is a blood sugar marker, was in the pre-diabetic range. Her lymphocyte to monocyte ratio was high, showing that she had some sort of little bit of an imbalance in her immune system. A one of LMR number does not necessarily give us like a huge indication. It's something that we want to look at trends at over time, but it's something we picked up on and wanted to point out. And her total white blood cell count was low. Her epigenetic results showed that she had glutathione and antioxidant problems, glutathione being a very important antioxidant in the body, and then also any other antioxidants. She had trouble making them. She was sensitive to gluten, dairy, and caffeine, and she had difficulty with methylation, also known as that cell healing stuff I mentioned earlier. And I'm just going to quickly say that it doesn't mean that we took out all of the gluten, all of the dairy, all the caffeine from her diet just because she was sensitive to it. We just looked at her overall intake, but we kind of I think we reduced caffeine because she was having that quite regularly due to fatigue. And we just adjusted things. We looked more at including things than excluding things. And at no point did she ever mention she felt like she was restricted with anything. We also did an extra functional test with Rebecca. We did a stool test. We made sure it was about 4 months post-treatment because she still was recovering from surgery and chemo, and that can impact the gut. We want to see what is kind of happening on its own as it's starting to heal. We saw that she still had a microflora imbalance. She had detoxification issues, and she had gut lining inflammation. So goals based on this data that we collected, we needed to address her gut just because she had a colon cancer diagnosis and she had a long-term history of gas, bloating, and constipation. And we saw on her test results that she had microflora imbalance. So we actually got her to stop the probiotic because she was overdoing it with that probiotic. It was actually increasing too many of the good bacteria. It was too much of a good thing. We looked at reducing dairy to help with the gut, with constipation issues. We helped her to increase water, improve fiber intake, and to improve her parasympathetic input, which is her stress reduction strategies. We also looked at improving that LMR, that lymphocyte to monocyte ratio, and total white blood cell count with supplements, exercise, and nutrition. We also looked at blood sugar and weight management, and both of these can kind of get tackled by the same things, such as strength training, macros, walking, gut health, that kind of stuff. We looked at optimizing her nutrients by raising her vitamin D and raising her zinc, supporting her antioxidant pathways through foods and supplementation, supporting methylation processes. increasing her fish oil dose because she was taking a very low dose that probably didn't have any impact whatsoever on her inflammatory levels. Or we just said we could stop it because we don't feel like it's a really important fit for her. Not that it was harmful, it was just not that important. We switched her curcumin again to a better dose, a better absorbable kind of form. And we retested her abnormal blood work about 3 to 4 months later with tests, the other tests being done as a good screening tool, at least yearly for her. And we also asked her to consider a yearly stool test just to make sure everything is staying on track, just because, again, of the colon cancer diagnosis. So Rebecca says, wow, I feel incredible. My brain isn't constantly going down the rabbit hole of cancer advice, and I feel I can finally enjoy my day. I thought losing weight and eating to beat cancer would be hard, and it wasn't easy, but definitely not as difficult as I would have made it on my own. I've gone on vacation and enjoyed nights out and was still able to stick to my plan and see results. My husband is healthier now too, and I can see that I'm healthier based on blood work results and symptoms resolving. Couldn't have done it without you girls. So these ladies, Stephanie, Rebecca, they tested and could see what unique needs their bodies had. It gave them goals and took away their overwhelm. So what happens if you continue to put the pieces together without your personal information? Chaos will happen. It's just, there's so much out there. You don't collect markers of success. You never know if your efforts are doing anything. You never understand your cancer vulnerabilities. The same problems keep smoldering and smoldering in the body. It becomes like throwing spaghetti at the wall, just hoping that something sticks. I'll take this supplement. I'll take that supplement. I'll do this diet plan. I hope that something's going to work. And always hoping instead of knowing, which just continues to lead to more anxiety and overwhelm. But if you gather your data, you have a focus, you have direction, you have a roadmap to follow, step 1 to step 100. You can save time and energy and cupboard space. You can understand more about what your body needs and doesn't need. You don't waste time on things that don't matter. You can track success and know better when to change paths, because sometimes you're going to try something and it's still not going to be right. We need to know when that's going to be the case, and we need to kind of change it and troubleshoot and go to the next kind of change. You can follow research and numbers instead of what Kathy on the internet did. You can also know what is contributing to cancer promoting inflammation and pathways, what foods you need to include more of, what supplements are best for you, and what markers you should retest to ensure you're staying on track, or you're at least on the right track already. And if you gather your data, you're going to feel less confusion, less overwhelm. You're going to feel more clear, more confident, more focused, and more motivated. No more deer in the headlights. You'll be more likely to make more changes and be consistent and follow through if you can understand why it's actually important and clearly see what needs to be done. Okay. All right. So I could probably talk about blood work and epigenetic testing and functional testing for several days, but that's only step 1, and we still have 3 more steps to do. Let's move on to step 2. So step 2 is to focus your nutrition and supplement choices on strengthening your anti-cancer defenses, not to kill cancer cells. So what does that mean? What do I mean by that? Cancer treatment is a time of cell death and destruction of disease, whereas cancer recovery is a time of cell healing and renewal of lifelong health. When you're done treatment, it's not necessarily about killing more cancer cells. It's more about preventing cancer cells from activating again, from becoming a thing, from getting access to fuel. So we need to strengthen your body so that it is an environment where cancer just doesn't want to be, where it doesn't get the resources it needs to start or thrive, and where it gets removed before it can get its foot in the door. So have you ever thought to yourself, I can't eat that cookie. Cookies have sugar and sugar feeds cancer. I must eat those broccoli sprouts. They have sulforaphane that kill cancer cells. Gotta drink my SCAC tea. SCAC tea has herbs that kill cancer cells. And I heard meat has glutamate, and glutamate is a cancer fuel. Here's the thing. The research on specific foods and supplements that kill cancer cells is weak and done in animal and cell models that has not been shown so far to be consistently helpful in human beings. There is better research available and more effective ways to apply nutrition and supplements to reduce your risk of cancer coming back via creating an environment, an anti-cancer environment, making your body undesirable to cancer. Do we go and ignore all the cell culture and animal studies and the cancer killing studies? No, absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a lot of highly valuable, specific, and detailed information out there on humans in randomized controlled trials and meta-analyses, which are higher level studies that can be very impactful. And a lot of people just are ignoring it. They're kind of focusing in the wrong areas to try to get the success with keeping cancer coming back. And we want to ensure that people aren't being sold on sensationalized advice because it's really fun and easy to say this SEACT kills cancer cells or this quercetin supplement kills cancer cells. Yes, it does. It's not a lie, but it does it in cell cultures or animal cultures. So that's more sensationalized or misrepresented outcomes. We also don't want people to get sucked into here's what worked for me kind of advice. We want you to dial in on a mix of what is the strongest information available, the strongest research out there that's available, combined with what does your body need and your data. And then we want to sprinkle in a little bit of the extra cancer killing information. So your plan should include your data, kind of like what we were talking about in step one, the highest level of research available, so the RCTs, the randomized controlled trials, the meta-analyses, all these human research studies we want to look at in the environments that are being created to reduce cancer recurrence risk. And we want a sprinkle of cell culture and animal research results as well. So instead of killing cancer cells, I want you to focus your supplements on things like supplements that reduce inflammation, supplements that balance blood sugar, that lower cholesterol, that metabolize estrogen, that improve gut health, that optimize nutrients, that strengthen bones, that support the immune system, that tackle cancer stem cells. We want to look at those other environmental factors that can be influenced. For nutrition, we want to look at rebuilding the body. So we want to give your body the building blocks it needs in order to heal tissues that have been damaged by chemo, radiation, surgery, stress, all these different things that depleted your own personal stores of nutrients that have damaged your normal healthy cells as well, and they need to be rebuilt. They're rebuilt by the foods that you eat. So the protein, the carbs, and the fats, those are macronutrients in appropriate amounts to support your body's healing. Vitamins, minerals as well to restore the liver and kidney functions to give you some energy to function. We also can provide food. We can provide antioxidant support through food. We can provide energy through food and nutrition. We want to include specific research foods that have been shown in human studies, ideally to reduce cancer risk, as opposed to some of the cell cultures and animal studies that even animals metabolize things differently. And then sometimes we get information that's completely opposite than what we see in humans, but it's because the animals, they break things down differently. So we still want to go with the human studies. We want to balance blood sugar. We want to remove the burdens off of the body with quality foods. So we want to avoid a lot of sugar and processed meats and dairy and things like that. We want to look more organic whenever we possibly can to prevent any hits from getting to the cells, from preventing the body being burdened with all of these things that would have to process. And we want to support the immune system. So we do know that people with diabetes, for example, have a 30% increased risk of cancer. So we know that blood sugar plays a role in the environment that is conducive to encouraging cancer to grow. So let's work on balancing blood sugar. It's commonly accepted that inflammation causes cancer. So tackling inflammation, identifying potential underlying sources. By doing that, we're going to reduce the opportunity for cancer to start and grow because it likes inflammation. Let's reduce inflammation. Let's create that anti-inflammatory environment. We have human studies on specific foods for some types of cancers, such as like breast and colon cancer. So we want to make sure that people are getting these foods and aren't being confused by other things that have only been studied in animal and cell cultures that might actually show opposite results than what we're seeing in humans. Let's go with the human stuff. We know that the gut microflora can influence someone's risk for many cancer types, so let's help people to improve their gut health. We know certain exercise plans can reduce cancer recurrence risk over 50%. Let's work on exercise plans. We know that the immune system is a main way by which we destroy cancer cells, so let's test your immune system, see where it's at, and apply supplements and nutrition and exercise and other changes to help it to run optimally. We know catechol estrogens are harmful to breast cells, so let's encourage healthy catechol estrogen formation and removal. The thing is, we don't necessarily know if the SEFT, the grapeseed extract, or the quercetin you're taking, and honestly has been over sensationalized to kill cancer cells, is really killing any cancer cells in your body. We don't want to just target killing cancer cells. We want to target creating this anti-cancer environment for sure. So that was step two. Let's move on to step three. Detox, but without cleanses, intense diets, or handfuls of supplements that deplete you. Many approach detoxification during after cancer treatments like this. So they do a 2 to 4 day juice cleanse. They do extreme fasting. They do restrictive diets with very little variety. They take herbal supplements that just make you poop several times a day. They get into colon cleanses and enemas. They do supplements labeled as important for the liver. But why is that a problem? Honestly, you are depleting your body in the time it needs it most. You've just been through cancer treatment, surgery, chemo, radiation, stress, all immunotherapy, all these different things. Your body had to process all of that with the resources it was given, which is often extra depleted if you struggle to eat due to fear of taste, fear of foods, or if you had taste bud changes, or if you had nausea or diarrhea or appetite issues. So now is not the time to force it to struggle even more by doing extreme fasting, like 24 or 48-hour fasting. We don't want that. We don't want you to do diets that are super restrictive and have very little variety, because you need different colors of vegetables, different types of macronutrients. We need all these things in order to rebuild your body back up and to restore all those things that have been depleted. We don't want you to try and push your organ systems to work overtime by having to run to the bathroom as well because of all these herbal laxatives and enemas that you've been doing. You really need to rebuild in order to remove treatment byproducts and protect against cancerous changes. You need to give your body strength via building blocks like food, stress relief, nutrients, and more before you can expect to detox and clean out the bad stuff and fight cancerous changes. You really have to put gas in the car in order to make it drive. You have to put fuel in your body via the right foods to help your organs to clean up. If you don't restore first, if you don't build your body up first, and instead run and do green juice cleanses, if you take the liver supplements, all those kind of things to try and forcibly remove the treatment sludge from your system, you push your organ systems too hard. They don't do the job nearly close to 100%, and you end up being more tired. You lose your energy. So instead, I want you to focus on restoring first. So getting enough building blocks, the protein, fats, the carbs, getting enough nutrients. So B vitamins, glutathione, antioxidants, zinc, all these kind of things. I want you to engage your parasympathetic nervous system, which is that stress reduction strategy, because if you're going to be overly stressed, it just constantly makes your body system run a little bit faster and just kind of depletes your energy. We also want to encourage things like nutrient delivery through good blood flow. Blood is how we deliver things from your stomach where you've eaten things through the intestines, and we deliver it through all the way to your brain, for example, because it's like the mode of transportation. It's the subway that's going to get your food from your gut to your brain. Then we can potentially focus on removing things. And we don't mean, again, those herbal laxatives and things like that. We want you to focus on having daily bowel movements, on sweating more, good bile flow, especially important if you don't have a gallbladder. Encourage garbage removal via the lymph system. Your lymph system is like the garbage trucks that go from cell to cell, from house to house to collect their garbage and to get rid of it through the other systems in the body, like bowel movements. It transfers it around. And also to eliminate environmental burden. So we don't want to add extra things onto your body for it to have to work on while we're working on trying to get rid of all the other stuff that's been built up from treatment and from day to day. So a little bonus here is that if you've done your blood work and epigenetic testing from step one, you actually have a better idea of where to focus for detoxification as well, because it tells us more information about your nutrient levels and other pathways for detoxification support, whether it's estrogen stuff or the antioxidant support. Those are all parts of detoxification. Tells us like, do you produce enough glutathione, which is an important antioxidant? Are you depleted in liver support nutrients? Do you have gut problems, nutrient absorption problems? Does your liver do a good job at changing estrogen from more harmful to helpful? Let's try to put this into a real life example now. So we have Jennifer, who had a lymphoma diagnosis. She did chemotherapy, which left her feeling toxic, is how she described it. And I think a lot of people describe it this way. And part of Jennifer's plan was detoxification, what we helped her with. So first, we helped her to restore. And part of her restored process was macro, so protein, carbs, and fat, to create new tissues. We helped her to top up her vitamins and minerals that we saw were depleted on testing. We helped her to fix her heartburn and her bloating symptoms that she had for a little while, mostly since finishing treatment. Um, and we supported her adrenals and her nervous system. We also saw on epigenetic testing that she had low protection against reactive oxygen species. So we did antioxidant supports, such as milk thistle, green juices with meals, leafy greens, plant-based proteins. Other parts of her plan for detoxification included lymphatic movement. So we had her try out some hot cold showers. She actually enjoyed them. A lot of people don't. We're not going to force it on them, but she enjoyed doing her hot cold showers, which helped to get the blood vessels and the lymphatic system moving in her body. She tried some rebounding. She already had a rebounder trampoline at home, and she had access to a sauna at the gym. We worked on blood vessel pumping, which is the exercise, clean water, electrolytes, all these things help with your blood and blood vessels. We had to remove burdens as well. So organic foods when possible, clean household products, including makeup, lotion, laundry, pots, pans, and ensured that she was having daily bowel movements. Jennifer says that I feel alive again, like my body is my own again. I feel like I have a fresh start and can continue forward with the next steps of my lymphoma blocking plan. We did a lot of other things in terms of helping to target potential like things that were more specific to lymphoma. This is just kind of part of what we did for her plan when it came to detoxification. And what happens when you restore? When you restore in order to detoxify, your body gets the fuel it needs to function optimally. You encourage the removal of unwanted substances. You send supplies to help protect your organs. You aren't nutrient depleted. You have more energy, very important. You reduce inflammation instead of encourage it because if you're gonna do all these things without first restoring your body, if you're gonna force your organ systems to work, then it's just gonna create more problems, more buildup, more inflammation for your body to have to process. You remove stress off the body and allow it to flow. You don't feel hungry because you're not doing super restrictive diets. You don't feel like you're going to poop your pants because you're not taking all those herbal laxatives and doing all the enemas and things like that. You avoid sending more triggers. It's way to hit cancer cell or hit cells and encourage cancerous changes. So we start to work on lowering inflammation. We restore the body. We create good defenses, and then it's just not an environment where cancer wants to be. All right, so to recap, step one, become clear on your specific needs to heal and block cancer via mostly blood work, epigenetic testing, and other functional testing as needed. Step two, focus your nutrition and supplement choices on strengthening your anti-cancer defenses, not to kill cancer cells. We want to follow the strong research and create an environment in the body, not necessarily just take something because it might kill cancer cells. We want to detox, but without cleanses, intense diets, or handfuls of supplements that only deplete you. We want to restore your body, top everything up, and encourage things to be removed appropriately through bowel movements, through exercise, through lymph changes, through blood work, through blood vessel movement. All those kind of things are more important parts of detox. So step four is one of my favorites. It is to make your happiness and joy in life an absolute priority and must have part of your cancer prevention plan. Research shows that people who stress more are more likely to develop chronic diseases such as cancer. And what does skipping this step look like? What does skipping making happiness a priority in your health plan, your cancer prevention plan look like? It looks like skipping meals because you're afraid of foods causing cancer. It looks like jumping from one trend or food or supplement to another. It looks like never celebrating your wins, always reaching for the next best thing. It looks like skipping social events and being burnt out from trying to do your own research day in and day out. It looks like cupboards full of supplements, constantly feeling cranky and overwhelmed, snapping at loved ones, daily thoughts of cancer, restricting yourself because of cancer, and paying for a PIMF mat or red light therapy instead of a vacation. Can you relate to any of these? I bet quite a few. So you finished or nearly finished treatment. You experienced a true struggle to survive, to ensure that you have more time to love, be loved, and share love. You did this to live, to guide, and to experience life. Is feeling fear, anxiety, and constant worry what you now want? I'm going to have to say no, like a big hard no. So, what needs to happen for you to live with joy, confidence, and purpose? First, commend yourself for the good you do. Every salad you eat, every piece of broccoli, every glass of water, every sip of water, even, consciously recognize the good deed you've done. Picture it spreading throughout your body and distributing gold bubbles of anti-cancer power. You also need to practice gratitude. It really does sound cheesy and woo woo, but if you want to feel good mentally, you need to practice. Your brain is like another muscle. Humans are primed to consider the worst and think negatively. It's the way that our brains are set up. It is our nature to see the bad, and it's part of protecting ourselves. It's how we make sure that we're not going to come across danger. It's just a part of the wildness that's kind of still in us. And we have to remember and practice to see the good things. And honestly, the more you practice feeling good, the more you feel good, and then the more open to further changes, being more highly motivated to do better. That's what's going to happen is whenever you feel better, you just make more changes. You also need to trust your body. Cancer was not your fault. It was not your body's fault. We are living in a complicated world where we just don't have it all figured out just yet. You didn't know things before that you even know today. Maybe you learned yesterday as well. And the human body is complicated, but absolutely miraculous. It knows how to protect you. You just need to listen and help give it what it's asking for. Trust that there is also a path for you to follow, that it isn't hopeless, that you do have power over your life, and know that only you can change it. You can change everything from the recurrence risk statistics you were given to how you feel today and tomorrow and every day to follow. And I hope that today you learned how the path for reducing your risk of cancer ever coming back doesn't need to be overly complicated, doesn't need to be scary, doesn't need to be restrictive, doesn't need to be constant guesswork or complete 360-degree turn on your life. Working on your health and putting cancer in the past can feel very much empowering. You can feel organized while doing it. It can feel unique to you. It can feel manageable, and it can feel like a breath of fresh air. All of these ladies, like Stephanie, like Rebecca and Jennifer, who I spoke about today, they were confused. They were scared at one point too, but now they worked on reprogramming their brains, on making happiness a priority and gaining confidence through taking action and making changes. You can see here that we have people say that I can make my own decisions about my cancer remission and how to stay in remission. I feel strong. I'm grateful for the automatic reasoning in my brain due to the program to know what she needs to do to get back on track, is what this person's saying. Her anxiety has settled and she's healing regardless of cancer's ulterior motives. They've taken control, they practice being happy, they've made the right changes for them, and they feel real good about it. So today I taught you the first 4 steps to staying cancer-free, which are becoming clear on your specific needs to heal and block cancer, focusing your nutrition and supplement choices on strengthening your anti-cancer defenses, not to kill cancer cells, detoxing but without cleanses, intense diets, or handfuls of supplements that deplete you, and making your happiness and joy in life an absolute priority and must-have part of your cancer prevention plan. Now, I know it can feel lonely on this journey to recovery, and at the same time, also noisy and like you're standing alone in a busy crowd. Because of this, I'm going to share with you an additional opportunity where you can feel more connected, be confident, feel clear on what you need to do to reduce your risk of cancer coming back from steps A to Z, where you can begin to make your happiness a priority and calm your thoughts around cancer. So I have a program called the Roadmap to Recovery. My team and I have been blessed to work with hundreds of women who have finished or nearly finished cancer treatment, helping them to figure out, lay out, and follow through on their personal path to keeping cancer from coming back. We help you to navigate what you need to do to create lifelong habits, not quick fixes or ineffective changes that will help you to feel more confident in your future. Here's what we'll do together in this program. Step one is going to be a thorough deep dive into you and your health. We are going to do a one-to-one expert intake and a review of your systems, including your nutrition, your stress, your sleep, your digestion, your past medical history, your family medical history, the diagnosis and treatment. We want to know about it all. Again, for us, blocking cancer is not necessarily just about applying things to kill cancer cells. We do some of that as well. But for us, it's more about creating this environment in the body where cancer just doesn't get the fuel it wants to survive. It just doesn't want to hang out there. It's just nothing for it. We're also going to recommend blood work to be ordered and analyzed. We're going to give you an epigenetics test to do, and we're going to recommend any functional testing as required, depending on, again, your health history, your symptoms, your goals. Step two is about analyzing this data and laying out the roadmap. We're going to put all these details together. Your symptoms, your blood work, your epigenetic results, any functional tests, your goals, your family preferences, your schedule, all of these things are very important to helping us to create the plan that's going to include nutrition, supplements, exercise, and lifestyle changes like for sleep or stress or hot flashes or whatever it might be. We're going to help to put into action, troubleshoot, and retest as needed to ensure that it's working as well for you. Step three is going to be about educating and answering any questions that you have along the way. While we're also working on your unique approach in those one-to-one visits, we're going to help you to learn the foundations of solid research strategies for reducing cancer risk. So you're going to go through some lessons that are going to teach you what is actually true in natural cancer prevention approaches and what is more hype. Like, what does the research say? What is the holistic spin on this? What do you actually need to know and learn and do? And just so that you can put the rest of the information that's not so helpful behind you. Step four is about outlining your plan for the next week to years. We're going to give you better screening guidelines, something like ctDNA testing recommendations. We're going to help you to follow up on blood work assessments as needed so that we can stay on top of things instead of waiting for problems to appear. We're going to reassess your nutrition and supplement changes as things change, whenever research changes or symptoms come up, or just life changes. Maybe you moved or you went on vacation and you fell off track. It's just human nature that you're going to need some extra support going forward. And we're going to look at long-term maintenance of health. Everything from like making sure that your bones are nice and healthy, that your cholesterol is stabilized, that your blood sugar looks good, that we're working on weight management, dealing with hot flashes, sexual health, anything like that that's popping up. This is all going to be an important part of your plan. And with our time together, you'll know foods to include and limit, supplements to take, areas of your health encouraging cancer promoting inflammation and how to tackle it, possible underlying contributors to cancer starting, nutrient deficiencies and how to address them, what your exercise plan should look like, how to support other common health issues from treatment like fatigue, osteoporosis, high cholesterol, weight gain, and hot flashes, and also your best steps to reducing your risk of cancer coming back using the most impactful research-backed and holistic changes, all based on your data, your history, and your goals. You'll feel 100% more confident in your nutrition choices, your exercise plan, and the supplements you're taking to feel better and block cancer because you'll understand, see for yourself, and you'll know that you are on the best path for you. Also, it's important to us that everyone is still enjoying their favorite foods, that you're able to run after the kiddos or the dog, and that you're spending time out with your friends and loved ones without the rebound exhaustion and cancer-related anxiety. We're going to be your cheerleaders. We're going to surround you as cheerleaders as well as coaches. So we'll help you to get clear scans and good blood work, to create a custom plan that's going to help to strengthen your body. We're going to help you to change your life for the better. All these little things that people are talking about here. We'll give you direction and expert knowledge. We'll help you to remain with no evidence of disease and help you to achieve more energy. If you'd like to learn more about this process, then I would love to chat with you. Let's get you on a roadmap call with my team. The website here is flourishaftercancer.com/roadmap to book a call. What we're going to do in this free call is just ask more about you. We want to hear more about your diagnosis, your treatment, your goals, what you've already tried. This will allow us to ensure that we are a good fit to work together and to answer any questions you may have. I really, really, really am very picky and luckily able to be very picky with who we work with. We want to make sure that you are ready to make some changes and that we want to know that we can actually help you see where you're at right now, what are your goals, and make sure that that's stuff that we can help you to achieve. And if we don't think that we can help you, that we're not a really good fit, we can at least give you your next best steps. So last thing here before we let you go for today, what are some common questions that we get about this program? So who is the Roadmap to Recovery program for? It's for any woman who has experienced a cancer diagnosis and wants to do the best thing she can to reduce the risk of cancer growing and or coming back. And what are types of cancer that we've supported before? We've supported honestly all types of cancer. Our focus is on building your body up nice and strong because that's what's really important. I hope you learned that after listening in today. Killing cancer cells is secondary, but we have worked and have experience with all cancer diagnoses, so breast, colon, blood cancers, thyroid cancers, ovarian, cervical, sarcomas, and more. We have seen people with all different types of cancers. And will you get to work with me? I will be doing 12 twice monthly group coaching calls with you. What I've done is, as well as kind of put the path together and laid out the appropriate steps for our coaches to follow with you in your one-to-one visits. And I look after keeping up to date with the research and regular coach trainings. So same as how you kind of see a doctor in a conventional medical system who will create your plan for you, outline what the treatment plan looks like. And often it's the nurses and other practitioners who helped you to carry out the plan. I've created the processes and the methods and trained the team appropriately, but they're the ones who are going to carry out the big parts of the plan for you. And I'm there to answer any questions they have and as you have as they come up. What if I'm already a healthy eater and have already made changes? I have to say, if you felt confident you were on the right track, then what made you attend my training today to the bitter end, to the very end? It seems like you still have some need for some support, and we work with many healthy eaters and people who have made many changes, and we fill in the gaps and move into more personalized applications with supplements and testing and help them to do what things, to stop doing things basically that aren't very useful. So what if I'm really not a healthy eater or haven't made any changes yet? We will always meet you where you're at and help you to make massive but slow and steady impacts, massive and slow and steady changes from where you're starting. You've already recognized that you need support by attending this training, and we are here to provide that for you step by step. And what if I'm tired or busy and don't have enough time to make changes right now? Well, cancer doesn't really wait around, so we can't either. There will never be a perfect time to make change. We want to help you to take steps that you can follow through with, even when you're low on time and energy. And when you stop doing all the things that really aren't important and you start focusing in on what is important, you often end up with more time and more energy. So thank you all for attending to the bitter end of the masterclass today. If you are interested in booking a roadmap call, you can visit flourishaftercancer.com/roadmap and book a time with my team. And I look forward to the opportunity of supporting you with these next steps.